probably like 450 if I don't. Like
That much
solid CPU.
Oh, I'm putting on a straight.
Frex on the Vindicta. Is he playing sport? You're alone. Don't beeps the tower. You played today, Kev, or you used your first game too?
I played one
Damn, you look good as fuck.
That's a good crazy nap today.
For no reason. Who am I listening to? Let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. I have so many people's stuff open, it's crazy. Get rid of this. Kidding, who's that? Nelly the God, the GOAT. Cake gotta be open. GB12, let's get rid of this. This. You should be good now. Let me put on some fucking socks, bro. My fucking feet cold. Holy shit. I'm gonna say professional blinker or some shit, huh? Professional, huh? What to be a professional? Professional nerd. The NBA just embarrassed the extra. What's going on? What if you are an idiot? How do you know you're dumb?
Yo, that's good.
What makes you know if you're dumb or not? Hold on. Professional eye blinker. Oh, what's funny? Professional. What can I do professionally? Professional breather. Oh God, I'm pretty good at that. Let's type that shit on my Facebook. It's good to be a professional breather. Professional breather. I know that every time I post he calls me, but I don't want to do it. Is that a shark? Nah, this ain't real, right? Yeah, I would shit myself. I ain't scared of this. This ain't that scary. I'll beat the fuck out of this guy. This is scary. I don't know. This is fucking scary. This, I'll beat the fuck out of this. Realistically. Okay. Hop back on Hearthstone, yeah? While we listen to some videos.
This video is sponsored by Blinkist.
How do you know if you're smart or not?
We all like to think we are good at certain things, above average in certain areas. Most of us are at some things,
as a warlock.
But the truth is, you are likely wrong about how good or bad you are at many things. It is likely that you both over and underestimate your actual abilities in numerous areas of life. And the areas and the degree to which you're wrong would probably surprise you.
I think I have this in Warrior.
In a 1999 study, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger discovered a phenomenon that would be coined the Dunning-Kruger effect. After giving participants of the study various tests that assessed their abilities in humor, logical reasoning, and grammar, the participants were then asked to self-assess their performance in relation to their peers in the study. Dunning and Kruger found that people who performed poorly on the tests tended to believe that they did far better than they actually did, while those who performed well tended to misperceive their performance in relation to the average of their peers. In other words, the study would discover the cognitive bias where people who are less knowledgeable or experienced in an area tend to believe that they are much more competent in that area than they actually are. and those who are experienced and knowledgeable in an area tend to underestimate or doubt their abilities. These cognitive biases are the Dunning-Kruger effect. Although the phenomenon is debated amongst researchers, and on the surface, the effect may seem paradoxical and bizarre, arguably, the cause is understandable.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill guys, just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that's actually made by one of the...
Let's use Pi.
If someone knows little about a subject or has little experience in a particular area, they do not have enough experience or knowledge to recognize the degree of their incompetence. In other words, they don't know enough to know what they do not know. If you're incompetent, you can't know you're incompetent. The skills you need to produce a right answer are exactly the skills you need to recognize what a right answer is, said Dunning. On the flip side, people with more knowledge and experience in an area are aware of the complexity, vastness, and difficulty involved in being right or successful, and thus they are likely to be more doubtful of their abilities. They also tend to think that others are more capable in the area than what is actually the case, and so they are also more likely to underestimate themselves when ranked against others.
Of course.
Examples of the Dunning-Kruger effect demonstrated in studies include things like driving, where studies have shown that 93% of American drivers believe they are better than average. The phenomenon is also often present in the workplace, where employees of companies tend to overestimate their performance compared to their coworkers, where as many as more than 40% of a company's employees believe that they are in the top 5% of performers. Of course, everyone can't be better than most. There must be a most.
That's bad, right?
Throughout the processes of learning, strategizing, evaluating, and reflecting, there is another process at play referred to as metacognition. Metacognition is the awareness of one's own thought processes. It's one's thoughts about thinking.
A major part of the learning process,
and a major factor in being competent in something, is the ability, through metacognition, to recognize patterns, errors, and problems in one's thinking, and then employ strategies to deal with and overcome them. According to Dunning and Kruger, when someone is incompetent in an area, they lack metacognitive abilities in that area. As a result, this lack of awareness of their thought processes and knowledge prevents them from recognizing where and when they may go wrong, and so, in their mind, they never do. This phenomenon can be fairly unsettling on the individual scale, to know that you don't know what you don't know. Of course, you already knew that, but the degree to which you're unaware and the areas that you might have such oversights, where you might otherwise feel pretty confident, can be disconcerting. But it's even more unsettling when considered on the collective, societal scale.
No way you trades, right?
What's curious is that, in many cases, incompetence does not leave people disoriented, perplexed, or cautious. Instead, the incompetent are often blessed with an inappropriate confidence, buoyed by something that feels to them like knowledge, said Dunning. Partly as a result of the Dunning-Kruger effect, people who are not qualified to speak on certain subjects are still some of the most confident and loudest who do. More qualified individuals, rather, tend to be less loud and less simplistic, and instead, more thoughtful and cautious. And for exceptionally high-level experts, since they tend to misperceive how big of a gap there is
what's up,
between
G-Money?
them
What you on?
and the average person,
Hope
it
you
can
having a
be
good one, bro.
reasonably assumed that they are likely to insufficiently communicate about the subject they are an
He gonna
expert
kill
in
this shit,
with the
watch.
general audience. And of course, in some cases, complex things simply cannot be fully explained quickly or in comprehensive terms to individuals who are not experts themselves. And so, out of the lot here, the incompetent but confident amateur, the competent but cautious intermediate, or the exceptionally competent expert who is confident but struggles to understand and communicate with the layman, who is more convincing to a mass audience of individuals who do not know the difference between correct and false
Summon a
information?
copy of it that goes dormant for one turn.
It's seemingly become more
Divine
and more
shield.
common to have an opinion about nearly everything. Maybe it's always been this way. Maybe having access to all the world's information, but only enough time to read the headlines, and the incentive to still leave a comment, has exacerbated this human tendency. Whatever the case, because of this, and in combination with the Dunning-Kruger
You play
effect,
this?
some of the voices we hear the most of are the least
Bro,
qualified, useful,
yo, they
or
added more.
They are rather voices of confidence and charisma.
They added a lot more skins, bro. They got a Mullen
The right voices, rather,
Krill
are often
one.
quieter,
You'll love
harder
it.
to parse, or still looking for the right words and means to express themselves.
I ain't gonna spoil it, but it's lit.
Natural to want to have a voice that is heard. It's desirable
He destroyed
to be
this is
perceived,
crazy.
liked, followed, impactful. Being a voice of change and impact is a noble goal, but sometimes the greatest impact is silence.
Discover
Does
a
the world
car
really need
and
more
do this, play
voices?
this, right?
Or does the world need more
It's lit,
capable
bro. It's
voices?
fucking. You'll love it. You're gonna love it.
Of course, the irony here being a voice that is not silent, is not lost. But the point here is not merely about being silent outright. It is about being carefully noisy, at least attempting to be. It's impossible to have no opinions, but it is possible to have less, or be more careful around how we hold the
It's
ones
as
we do.
Reborn, bro.
Once you know about the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Reborn
it
and
might feel
Life
like now
Steal is
you are no
crazy.
longer susceptible
Wait,
to
I
it.
have 3.
Or perhaps you
What's
might
the
feel
third
as though
effect?
it's something you never were
Oh,
susceptible to.
wait, do I got
You're not
divine
the kind
shield?
of person who overestimates their abilities.
Some of the copy
You're
of the minion?
cautious and thoughtful and self-aware. You never
Huh?
make claims about things you don't know. You know your blind
Bruh,
spots.
there.
But
Yo,
of
we
course,
both stacked.
that's
Hold
not
on.
how blind spots work. In truth, do you think anyone who is subject to the
Oh my
Dunning-Kruger
God.
effect, overestimating their abilities or knowledge, thinks they
I
are?
feel like
The phenomenon is precisely
Does
that
it
one does
copy?
not know
Oh.
that they are a victim to it. The first rule of the Dunning-Kruger Club is that you don't know you're a member of the Dunning-Kruger Club, said Dunning. In fact, thinking you're impervious
have
to
a
the
weapon.
Dunning-Kruger effect is itself an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know just enough about the phenomenon to believe you can circumvent it, while not knowing enough to know you probably can't, at least not automatically or universally. Perhaps, however, we can overcome it more often with a certain kind of awareness and attitude.
if I get rid of this
By
now,
more regularly being silent, by being willing to be a nobody, to let our voice,
That's
our
juicer
presence,
here.
our existence, not always be involved, we can perhaps be a victim of the effect less,
choose
and be
a
on the right
damaged
side of the
minion.
effect more.
I mean, he's gonna
In
heal
truth,
up too.
the average person is well-read and experienced in a relatively small quantity of things, at best. We don't need to be
Oh
more
yeah,
than that.
he had a
We
1-on-1.
shouldn't try or pretend to be. After a certain point, the quantity of opinions one holds
Let's
is
kill
almost
everything.
always inversely
Another chance.
proportional to the quality and
Choose a
accuracy of them.
damaged minion.
We will inevitably
Rush,
often fail at
whenever
correctly
you're-
making
let's
a
play this.
distinction for ourselves and knowing which
Yo,
areas
it's
we belong
clean.
in
It's
and which of our
clean,
opinions
bro.
deserve
It's
sharing.
clean, dog.
Make
Not
the
even
most
that.
of
My
the
favorite.
holidays. With the Fry's app, you can enjoy over $600 in digital coupons every week. Get access to low prices and
Bruh,
earn
hold
fuel
on, that
points
shit
to
just
save
pissed
up
me
to
off.
$1 off per gallon.
my
at the pump.
favorite-
The Fry's app makes it easy to save this holiday season. Fry's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary
Damn.
by state.
My favorite has to
Restrictions
be.
And
I'm
right
show
now,
you.
you can save when you shop
I
at
like
Faves.
I like that
Just buy 6 or more
skin. The one
participating
with
save
the
items and save 50 cents each with your
not
card.
the shark is lit, bro.
Fries,
I ain't gonna lie. But this
fresh
one,
for
where
everyone.
is it? Where is it? Where is it?
But that's okay. The goal here
This
is
one
to
right
try
here.
our
This
best.
one is my favorite.
Ultimately,
This one is
the
sick,
Dunning-Kruger
bro.
effect is a continual sliding scale that follows us
That's
through
for
life.
Paradox.
As long as we
though.
take on new endeavors,
That's the
new
best skin I've ever
challenges, new
seen.
goals, we will be incompetent in certain areas. And as long as we are incompetent, we will be partially
do I
ignorant
do?
to the true degree
I have
of our
divine shield.
incompetence.
Is that divine
But as
shield or
long as we
reborn?
continue to learn and grow, we will also uncover new knowledge, and we will continue to realign our self-perception with our actual abilities.
I can't
Life
even
is a
hit this
continuous
card.
cycle of realizing how little you knew, how much you were wrong, and how complex things really are, and then realizing it.
Summon
again.
Tutu after your hero attacks. Reopen this. Rush. Whenever
This
this
video
attacks
was
a
sponsored
minion-
by Blinkist.
Wait.
Our awareness of ourself is limited,
How do we do this?
distorted, and often confusing. Our
Can we win?
biases and oversights have tangible impact on our lives. They disconnect us from reality and paint our decisions in colors we are partly blind to. The books Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, You're About to Make a Terrible Mistake by Olivier Saboni, and Know Thyself by Stephen Fleming all provide highly unique and powerful insights
Wait,
into
Rush.
the nature of how we think, how we can often misunderstand our thoughts and feelings, how we can become misaligned from truth, and how we can gain back better control of our thought processes
so I
and
don't
make
know-
better decisions. Using the
I
app
don't know if
Blinkist,
somebody else that
you can
coded
learn
the
from all of
game
these
can see
books,
the skin,
as well as
but
over
yeah, only people
6,600
that only
other nonfiction
your
books and
computer can see it.
podcasts in just 15 minutes each.
It's weird.
Of course, the more
Nobody
we
else
learn,
can see
the
it
more
in the game.
powerful and fine-tuned
But
our radar
if the
becomes
enemy pick
for
your hero
understanding
that
the
you have a
nuances
skin
of
for,
things,
they will have
whether
that
it's in
skin.
ourselves, the world,
I
or
fought a
the
lot of
intersection
Lady,
of the two,
a
where our
lot of like
decisions
red
and
lady. Yeah.
evaluations change
I'm like, bro, that's
everything.
Lady God.
With it
That's
being
my
the beginning
skin.
of the new year,
They're not your
Blinkist
skin,
is
but
the
you know,
perfect way to
it's
broaden your
programmed.
perspective
You basically
and
like
experience
change
those
their
essential
base
aha
skin,
moments more often.
so you can see
And with
everything they
Blinkist
have.
Spaces,
So you
you
can have a
can
whole
easily
game full of
organize
modded
and share
skins, bro. It
titles
could be
with
a
those
whole
close to you,
6v6
making
full
it
of
even
straight
easier
modded
to build
skins,
knowledge
bro.
through a network of people interested in the same things as you. Whether it's a topic or a group of people, you can create a space
It's
around
sick.
it.
It
and share
really
the
is
books
sick.
and
Because people
ideas
be
you
fucking
discover.
using Megatron
Get
and
25%
shit.
off Blinkist's annual premium
Like, that was
membership
legit
and a
Megatron,
7-day free
bruh.
trial by using
Where
the
was
link
it?
in the description.
Man, you see a big
And
dick
of
to
course,
flying in the air.
as
This bitch
always,
is booty
thank
and
you
booty
so much
shorts
for
and
watching in
shit.
general.
She got
and
that
see
gap,
you
bro. I
next
ain't gonna
video.
lie. Bitch thick as fuck. Like imagine you fighting and you running you running from this guy, like dog, like, you see a big ass Megatron dude pulling up, like rushing towards you with a book.
Yes! Gift your gamer with great
I might install the rest of them too. I wanna have a whole lobby full of like modded people, bro. It's so lit. Like a fucking white viscous is so cool. I'm gonna do the Halloween viscous though. Now imagine you running and you see like a pumpkin viscous, bro. Or like a pumpkin getting chasing towards you, bro. That sounds cool, bro. That's so clean. No pressure, so clean. Ain't nobody questioning. Don't crank. Ain't. No pressure, so think.
You probably think you're in complete control of your decisions and thoughts, but how often are they guided by something else? Something you don't even notice occurring deep within your mind. Here are 21 cognitive mind traps, fallacies, biases, and other phenomenon that exists within your brain. Strange things that are hardwired into all human minds.
Excuse me.
You may go through your entire life
Please,
or well into adulthood
please don't have a
completely
high-cost
unaware
car
that
for the
you're
next
carrying
job.
around these thinking errors and mental shortcuts that influence your day-to-day thinking. You can't turn them off or delete them from your brain, but being one of the few people that can notice when they arise in your mind and knowing the situations they're likely to act upon your decision-making is one of the first steps to becoming a more thoughtful and rational thinker. This two-part series is mainly inspired by the works of Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his amazing book, Thinking Fast and Slow.
You don't have enough, right? Ooh, we get another crewmate. That's super value. Ooh. Forces
Cognitive dissonance.
We can do this. Your hero power gives one.
A fox snuck up to a vine.
This game.
He stared intently at the juicy
Your hero power
purple
gives you
overripe
your hero
grapes.
one more attack. This game.
He tried to get at the
nasty,
grapes,
bro.
but they were too high.
What are you talking
Frustrated,
about?
he tried again.
That's
he
kind
launched
of
himself
broken,
upward,
no?
but came no closer to the fruit. He leapt for a third time.
You get, bro, he got a permanent 2 mana 3 attack.
The fox turned up his nose.
Nah, that's wild.
I don't really
bro.
care. Only grapes that aren't even ripe. Why would I want sour grapes? He turned around and walked back into the forest. This is one of Aesop's fables, and also where we get the term sour grapes from. The fox had 3 choices: get to the grapes, admit that he wasn't smart or skilled enough to obtain the grapes, or to reinterpret the situation retrospectively. Or put simply, create a new belief that is in conflict with the first belief. When we choose option 3, and we have 2 held beliefs that are in conflict with one another, that is an example of cognitive dissonance. If you interview for a job but someone else gets it, instead of reasoning that the other person was better, you tell yourself that the job was no good anyway, or that the interviewer was unfair. When people can't get what they want, they often tell themselves it isn't what they wanted anyway. When people don't want to follow through on something, they often find new beliefs to rationalize the action to fit the first belief. You think all rich people are greedy and evil, but you also want to be rich. The dissonance leads to discomfort, mental stress, and anxiety. If the dissonance grows more intense, it can lead to depression. If you notice dissonance, you can ask yourself, what are the 2 beliefs that are competing and are incompatible? Am I telling myself this new belief because I couldn't get what I wanted? Or is this new belief because I need an excuse to explain away my first belief? What actions can I take to change my behavior or mindset and eliminate the dissonance? Because when it comes to cognitive dissonance, you can play the clever fox all you want, but you'll never get the grapes that way.
Rush, taunt, stealth. When the stealth is played, this card remembers it. If you play the elemental last name, I would love to play this. I don't have any other elementals in my deck though.
The spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect. I love his accent.
You arrive 5 minutes late to the office and you feel like everyone is judging you. It's your first day at the gym and you feel like everyone is watching you. You spill a small amount of sauce on your shirt and you feel so embarrassed because you think the whole party is going to
You think he got an AoE spell that kills everything?
The spotlight effect is the phenomenon in which people tend to believe people are observing them more than they are. People are seldom interested in you and your actions as much as you think. So do yourself a favor, stop overestimating how much people are observing you, and reduce the anxiety that is probably just the result of the spotlight effect.
I believe in that 100%.
The anchoring effect.
Oh.
Whenever we have to guess something, let's say the population of Russia, we use anchors, starting with something we know for sure to be true, so it must be greater than 1, must be less than 7 billion, and is less than the population of China. We then take these anchors and explore the unfamiliar territory. Unfortunately, we use anchors when we don't need to. Take a moment to pause and look at these two questions. Is the height of the tallest redwood tree more or less than 1,200 feet? What is your best guess about the height of the tallest redwood?
I would say less.
If we ask Group A these two questions and Group B these two questions, we would consistently get very different answers because of the anchoring effect. The words and numbers we use anchors people's decisions. But the anchoring effect doesn't only apply to numbers that appear informative, such as in the tree example. According to Kahneman, anchors that are obviously random can be just as effective as potentially informative anchors. An experiment was conducted on German judges with an average of 15 years experience. Each judge was read a description of a woman who had been shoplifting, then asked to roll a pair of dice, which were loaded to only add up to 3 or 9. As soon as the dice stopped, they were asked to answer how long they would sentence this woman. The judges who rolled a 9, on average, gave her an 8-month sentence. The judges who rolled a 3, on average, gave her a 5-month sentence. The researchers found that the anchoring effect was influencing their judgments. Numerous other studies using arbitrary numbers like the last digits of phone numbers or social security numbers also confirmed our anchoring bias. In sales and negotiations, anchors are being used all the time, and there will be people who are willing and able to set up this mind trap and exploit the anchoring effect against you. The car salesman setting a high price from the start so that the price that he actually wants to get from you seems like a good deal. The $150 dress at the front of the store sets the anchor for the $50 dress at the back of the store. Online stores, salary negotiations, and real estate deals are all playgrounds for the anchoring effect. And it's one of our most powerful biases. You can't turn it off, but you can remind yourself of your vulnerability to it and try to proactively set your own mental anchors before going into any sales or negotiation environment. Take a look at these examples. Let's say I want to sell my book. You can get my online course for $1,999, or you can get my book for just $15. I anchor you to the higher price first, so that the price of my book seems like a bargain. If I wanted to sell my course, on the other hand, I would need to find a better anchor. It costs $135,000 to go to college and learn the same things I'm going to teach you in my online course for only $1,999. If Sarah wanted to buy a $50,000 car and experiment with anchoring, she wouldn't show her partner a bunch of similar priced cars. She would show him a few $90,000 cars she likes first, and after she gets an audible gasp at the price, then she would show him the car she actually wants. And now it doesn't seem as expensive. The price you anchor first determines how people feel about the value of your offer.
Bro, what the fuck did he just play?
They have sent us the asking price for the home. Let's not let the numbers influence our thinking. Set it aside, let's perform our own due diligence and arrive at our own number. Our objective in this negotiation is to move first and get them anchored to this number.
Come on, bro. That's crazy to me. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of disgusting to me.
Even though the traits mentioned are exactly the same. When it comes to the halo effect, sequence matters. More weight is given to the first piece of information we receive. The first piece of information helps us quickly create a story of the person or situation in our minds. Sure, Alan is stubborn and envious, but that is only because he is intelligent and wants to win in business. And yes, Ben is intelligent, but he uses that intelligence in envious ways. The halo effect occurs when a single initial aspect of a person or thing determines and affects or outshines how we see the full picture. When you first start dating someone, both parties in the relationship are on their best behavior. You start to develop a halo of positive thoughts around this person. Small traits you dislike might begin to pop up, but often go unnoticed because the halo, the positive emotions, and the initial information you gathered on this person is blinding out any of the negatives. The honeymoon phase of a relationship is often when the halo effect influences your judgment the most. If we learn that someone graduated from a prestigious university, the halo effect will distort all other traits we attribute to that person without any evidence. Bernie Madoff was the darling of Wall Street, a legendary investor. The amazing returns and reputation of his company were the halo that made people also conclude his company must be trustworthy. The halo outshone the numbers that made no sense and the underlying fact that he was running the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Numerous studies have shown that attractive people are automatically perceived as nicer, more honest, and more intelligent. The halo effect can also be found in schools. If a student answers 2 essay questions and the teacher gives the first essay a high grade, he or she is prone to subconsciously give that more weight and give the second essay a higher grade also, and vice versa for low grades. In the work environment, the standard practice of most meetings is to have open discussions on a topic. Daniel Kahneman in the book Thinking Fast and Slow argues that it is better to gather independent judgments on the topic from everyone in the group before the issue is discussed, because far too often the opinions of the first people to talk are given too much weight and influence the group's input, especially if the boss speaks first.
Arena, bro. How the fuck
Modern research suggests that the old saying "first impressions last" turns out to be true. After meeting someone for the first time, our judgment of that person can influence us for a long time into the future. We jump to conclusions and our perception of true characteristics is distorted by the halo effect.
I can't wait till they add more
To combat this, try to move beyond the first appearance of someone or something and decorrelate error. Remember that your brain is trying to help you by making the most complete story it can on the limited information it is provided. The problem is that these mental shortcut stories we tell ourselves about a person or thing are often inaccurate from reality. He knows nothing about her personality. All he's going by is how good looking she is. He's succumbing to the halo effect. Hey look, this new applicant graduated from Harvard. She doesn't have any experience in this position, but I think we should interview her anyway. Let's gather ideas independently on this topic before the meeting. I don't want my ideas to influence the group's.
If you don't play a card, I'm definitely playing this turn one. Yeah, definitely playing this shit turn.
Gambler's fallacy.
Early game is tough.
3 times a coin is flipped and lands on heads each time. Let's say that someone forces you to wager thousands of dollars of your own money on the next toss. Would you bet on heads or tails?
That's tough.
If you think like most people, you will almost always choose tails, although heads is equally likely.
Yeah,
but
facts.
why? We believe in some kind of balancing force in the universe. If we ask people to choose which sequence is more probable, most would pick the top sequence, but both sequences are equally probable. We generally underestimate the likelihood of streaks occurring by chance. We are led to believe that something needs to change due to the gambler's fallacy. However, there is no such balancing force. The coin cannot remember that heads was flipped 3 times in a row, just as the ball cannot remember that it landed on black. Casinos love the gambler's fallacy because it creates the illusion in the gambler's mind that they can predict where the balance of the dice or roulette wheel will go next. This fallacy can apply anywhere there is a sequence of decisions. That awkward feeling you get when you've answered 5 C's in a row of a multiple choice exam is this fallacy at work. A University of Chicago review found asylum judges were 19% less likely to approve an asylum seeker if they had just approved the previous 2.
That's funny.
The same person applying for a loan was more likely to get approved for a loan if the previous 2 applicants were rejected, and was more likely to be rejected if the previous 2 applicants were approved. Similar findings were also found when analyzing the sequence of decisions of baseball umpires. Take a closer look at the independent and interdependent events around you. Independent events are not influenced by balancing forces of nature. The contrast effect.
Wow.
If you see some leather seats for $3,000, they may seem a little expensive. If you're buying an $80,000 car, on the other hand, the $3,000 leather seat upgrade seems almost like nothing. Research shows that people will walk an extra 10 minutes if it means saving $10 on food. However, nearly all wouldn't walk 10 minutes to save $10 on a $1,000 suit. It's easy to think something is attractive, large, or expensive when it sits next to something ugly, small, or cheap. Absolute judgments can be difficult to make. Try to catch yourself the next time you go shopping to see if your purchasing decisions are being influenced by the contrast effect. Right?
Deal to them to minion, discover a face value, your weapons cost 1 less.
Confirmation bias. You have an existing belief about something. You go in search of evidence that supports that belief, which further reinforces the belief. And you continue this cycle. If you come across evidence that doesn't support your belief, you filter the disconfirming evidence, and your brain forgets it after a short period of time. We never like to learn we've believed in a falsehood or made a bad decision, which is why we tend to filter what information we pay attention to. This is confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new information so that it becomes compatible with our existing theories and beliefs. This bias is subtle, unconscious, and always present in the mind when rational thinking is needed. As opposed to the scientific method, where you form a hypothesis or ask a question, gather evidence, and then test the hypothesis, this is hard work and may entail some unpleasant truths. This is John. John begins with a simple theory or belief. He turns to Google. He subconsciously goes in search of the first information that confirms his belief, and the confirmation bias takes care of filtering out the rest. Finding information that proves you are wrong is one of the best ways to determine if you are right. And philosophers of science would tell us to combat this bias by trying to refute the hypothesis. But rarely do people actively try to seek out disconfirming evidence to their beliefs. We hate to be wrong, so why would we actively try to seek out information that is in conflict with those beliefs? To make matters worse, the biggest platforms now tailor content to personal interests and browsing history, supercharging confirmation bias on a mass scale. We find ourselves in a sea of one-sided content amongst communities of like-minded people, also referred to as echo chambers, thereby reinforcing our convictions, and the confirmation bias becomes stronger. Not only do we need to combat our own confirmation bias, social platforms are aiding this bias by filtering what we are shown and not exposing us to opposing points of view. The more you conform the facts to fit your beliefs, the narrower your perspective becomes, until that narrow reality becomes all that you can see. Confirmation bias is the genesis of the I'm always correct ego, especially in political discourse. What planet are they living on? They must be living in an alternate reality. I'm completely right about this. Look at all the facts on my side. As a result of confirmation bias, we have a high degree of confidence. We feel deep down that we are right. If someone challenges our opinions, we tend to become defensive and even hostile.
Can we attack with this?
As opposing perspectives become narrower, discourse about facts that are being interpreted and filtered differently becomes nearly impossible, because both sides of an argument are seeing the evidence through the lens of their theories and only looking out for what confirms their existing beliefs. Echo chambers are the flywheels for frequent repetition and dissemination of ideas. The same ideas are shared, liked, and repeated, and any new beliefs are quickly shut down. All divergent thinking and opinions begin to disappear. When people hear the same thing repeated enough times, the facts may as well go out the window. According to Daniel Kahneman, a reliable way to make people believe in falsehood is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. There is no way to eliminate confirmation bias, only ways to reduce its effect on you. First is to simply become aware that this mind trap exists. If time does allow you to reflect, try to think gray. If you truly want to become an independent thinker, you need to suspend judgments, explore the gray areas, and expand beyond the hive mind of the group. Try to get your information from a variety of sources and avoid being influenced into a belief because it is what others are telling you to think, or has been repeated enough times you accept it as truth. Confirmation bias is a perspective narrower. Try to widen your perspective, because in most cases the objective facts lie somewhere in between, in the gray area.
With Asana, AI teammates can pull real-time data and help keep work on track, so every team can work smarter and faster.
I don't think we should be scared of this guy, right?
The #1 AI
I hate that I have
platform.
ads, though.
Try for free today at asana.com.
I could kill it. Do we
the
kill it?
Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. You buy a certain brand of car and all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere, whereas you didn't in the past. When you learn a new word or concept, suddenly you start seeing it everywhere in your life. You start thinking, wow, this is weird. How is it possible I've never seen this word in my life, and now I've seen it 3 times this week? But why do I keep seeing those new shoes I bought everywhere I go? They must be becoming so popular. The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon is an illusion in which, after noticing something for the first time, there is a tendency to notice it more often. It occurs when increased awareness of something creates the illusion that it is appearing more often. This phenomenon is augmented by 2 other biases: the recency effect, which inflates the importance of recent stimuli, and confirmation bias, which confirms in your mind these strange coincidences you think you're having, and then perpetuates your search to keep confirming that these coincidences must have some kind of meaning. Basically, our brains are master pattern recognition machines that are always searching for meaning in data. What is amazing are all the patterns and stimuli flooding past you every single day that your brain simply ignores because it's not in your awareness. We only see the things we are looking out for. In reality, you have most likely seen that word or car a number of times, but your mind simply wasn't interested in noticing it. Zeigarnik effect.
Zeigarnik?
We can almost always remember incomplete tasks, but we easily forget completed tasks. To put simply, incomplete tasks will stick around in our memory longer than completed tasks. Originally, it was believed that the only way to prevent the Zeigarnik effect from gnawing away at our thoughts was to complete the incomplete tasks. However, further research into the Zeigarnik effect found that simply having or writing down a plan to complete the task was enough to stop the effect. So if you find yourself awake at night with these incomplete tasks stressing you out, grab a pen and pad and write down a quick plan to get the job done. Getting the task out of your head and onto paper combats this effect and will give you more peace of mind.
He's seen that card before.
The paradox of choice. At a supermarket, 2 experiments were conducted. In the first experiment, 24 different types of jam were available to freely test and buy for a discounted price. In the second experiment, only 6 different types of jam were available to freely test and buy for a discounted price.
I don't know if that's a
The first experiment attracted 60% of shoppers and 3% bought jam. The second experiment attracted 40% of shoppers and 30% bought jam. Even though more shoppers were initially attracted to more variety, with less choices, the supermarket was able to sell 10x the amount of jam. This is the paradox of choice. For most people, a large selection of any given product is seen as a net positive. But once the number of choices increases past a threshold, our subjective state becomes negative and leads to inner paralysis and decision fatigue. The paradox of choice can also be found in modern-day dating. In the past, you would marry people you met locally. Nowadays, we have too many choices. And you may think that all that variety would make it easier to find the perfect partner. But more optimal decisions can be made when given a smaller amount of options to choose from. When faced with a small number of options, people can easily weigh the pros and cons of each and be fairly satisfied with whichever option they chose. When faced with a large number of options, knowing which option is best becomes more difficult, and the more options there are, the more chances there are of feeling regret. With more options, the more you feel the need to compare. The attractive features of the alternatives diminish the satisfaction in your final choice. Even if we made an excellent decision, the opportunity costs of the other options subtract from the overall satisfaction of our choice. Too many choices often leads to people not making any choice and giving up on the endeavor altogether.
I like that. Hold on. I don't know what that card is, but let's play that shit. Yo, let's fucking go. Thank you for the knowledge. I gotta rewatch that still, but.
When you're 85 years old on your deathbed, you're not going to wish you had fewer crazy stories. So let me introduce you to the school game. School
19 simple psychological tricks that actually work. There are all kinds of fancy books on neuro-linguistic programming and psychology that can help professionals get what they want from others. But there are also much simpler, yet just as effective methods that anyone can use on a daily basis. Here are 19 of them. Be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell to join us on the bright side of life. 1. Never start your request with the words, "Could you?" It can cause the other person to subconsciously assume that this is a theoretical question. For example, avoid questions like, "Could you call the neighbors?" Because the answer yes can mean, "Yes, I theoretically could, but I didn't agree to it." Sure, could is polite, but it's better to rephrase your request to, "Please call the neighbors," if you want to be sure that it'll be fulfilled. 2. If you ever want to make someone feel uncomfortable, look at the middle of their forehead during the conversation. Most people say it makes them feel like they're under scrutiny, which, of course, doesn't exactly make a person relax. Not sure why you'd want to do this to others, but who knows, the situation may arise. 3. If someone you're talking to is trying to avoid answering a question, just make a pause in the conversation while still keeping eye contact. They'll feel uncomfortable and, thus, will keep talking. Chances are they'll give you more details about the issue you're interested in. They may even start telling you the truth, if they were lying, since they'll believe that your silence and your look are signs that you already know the real facts. 4. Let's say you've started a new job or school. If you want someone in the office or class to like you, just ask them to explain something to you. It doesn't matter if you know the answer or not. This will improve the other person's overall attitude towards you and earn you some extra brownie points. 5. When asking a question that you want an affirmative answer to, try to nod subtly as you make your request. This trick is often used by restaurant employees to make guests buy more food, and it's pretty effective. 6. If a person is really concentrated on a task, let's say they're in the middle of a serious phone conversation, you can extend your hand to them and get anything they're holding at the moment. They might not even remember later on. The trick works the other way around too. You can give them something as you're talking to them and they won't even notice. Pretty helpful when you're cleaning up or moving to a new house. 7. If you want somebody to do something for you, casually say how they probably wouldn't even be able to do it. Most people will try really hard to prove someone wrong when it comes to doubting their capabilities. You can also make a small or unusual request before getting down to the main issue. In this case, you'll establish a connection with the person, so they probably won't have the heart to turn you down afterwards. 8. Just like with questions you need to get an affirmative answer to, start nodding just a little bit during a conversation. Interestingly enough, this will make the person you're talking to more attentive to your words, and they won't even realize why. 9. Here's a good one for negotiations. If you like a person's offer in general, but would like to get better conditions, prepare to be a little bit disappointed. This method can work like magic with a high price or a low salary. 10. As soon as your alarm clock goes off, sit up, make 2 fists, and yell, "Yeah!" as if you're a soccer player who's just scored a goal. It sounds bizarre, but it really does help you easily get out of bed feeling refreshed. Just try it for yourself and let us know down in the comments if it worked for you. 11. If you're always worried whether or not you lock the door or turned your iron off, just say some absolutely absurd phrase when you're doing these things. The phrase could be different every single day. For example, you say green rabbit and turn the iron off, or oppressive crab and lock the door. The next time you start doubting whether or not you did something, you'll remember saying this weird phrase, and it'll calm you down.
Will work for
12.
real, huh?
If a person tries to pull you into an argument or some kind of drama, say something nice to them. The old kill them with kindness trick really does stop them in their tracks. Another technique is to keep your calm and remain silent. There's nothing more irritating than being ignored. However, if you're trying to avoid an argument with your friend or partner, try to put yourself in their shoes. This can help you understand if there's some point in their objections that you're missing. 13. If you have that one lazy person on your team that slows the whole work process down, don't give them tasks by saying, "Do this." It's better to say, "Start with this." Psychologically, it'll seem like there's less work.
Can I kill it?
Because, according to this phrase, they should start with something small. After they've done the first task, use the words, "Very good. Now, continue with this," until they end up finishing what you wanted them to do in the first place. 14. If you have to speak in public, don't forget to take a bottle of water with you. First of all, you'll need it since your nerves will make your mouth feel like the Sahara Desert. Plus, you can take a pause to sip some water in order to remember a part of your speech that slipped your mind.
Oh
The
my
audience will
fucking
never
God,
know.
bro.
And
Nah,
if you feel
no
too
way we
anxious to
summon
speak
this.
in front of a large crowd,
That's tough.
admit this fact to the audience right away. It lightens the mood, calms your nerves,
That's
and it makes your
super
listeners
facts. I
feel
did
more
that.
sympathetic since most of them can probably relate.
Oh, I'm nervous. Hold on.
If someone is staring at you in the subway, happens all too often, right? Just look at their shoes. Don't give up. Keep gazing. It'll drive them crazy. 16.
Summon a random
If you seem really
8-cost
worried each
minion.
time you see someone you know, in the end, this person will also start feeling worried every time they see you. So, do with that information what you will.
Ooh, we can
17.
We can copy
If
of it.
someone has done something wrong, but you don't want to sound too accusing, change the way you construct your sentences. For example, instead of saying, "You didn't close the window before you left," you can say, "The window was left open all night." They'll learn from their mistake, and you won't seem like a meanie pointing the finger. 18. If you didn't get a good night's sleep, tell yourself that you did. I know it sounds like nonsense, but it does work 100% if you say it with meaning. Scientists from Colorado College published a study in the Journal of Experimental Psychology in which they found that if you genuinely believe that you're well rested, even if you're not, your brain does function better. 19. People are better at remembering what happened at the beginning and end of the day. As for anything that went on in between,
no way.
it gets blurry. This
Get
is a
the
great
fuck
tip when
outta
it comes
here,
to job
bro.
interviews. Agree to a time that's either at the start of the workday or at the end of it.
Can we
This
silence
way,
him?
the employer will
I need
remember
to
you
silence so
among all
bad.
the other candidates. Do you know any other effective tricks that can help you get what you want? Share your
what was that
experience in the
last one?
comments below. What happened at the
that shit
beginning if
pissed
you
me
say
off.
it with meaning. Scientists from Colorado College published a study in the Journal of Experimental Psychology in which they found that if you genuinely believe that you're well rested, even if you're not, your brain does function better. 19. People are better at remembering what happened at the beginning and end of the day. As for anything that went on in between, it gets blurry. This is a great tip when it comes to job interviews. Agree to a time that's either at the start of the workday or at the end of it. This way, the employer will remember you among all the other candidates. Do you know any other effective tricks that can help you get what you want? Share your experience in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a like, share it with your friends, and click subscribe to stay on the bright side of life.
I just gonna let him rock out with his cock out, like. Bro got a board full of random 8/8s. It's crazy. This shit is dumb, bro. This shit is fucking dumb, bro. The 3-second rule. What else should I learn though? Humor? The heart of humor or what? The art of seduction.
Getting oil out of the ground's the most dangerous job in the world.
Trouble? Always.
I didn't want him
We
working out.
lost. Crazy. Bro, that was bullshit, man. That was actually bullshit, bro.
We'll be looking at the seductive process part of the book right from the start.
Bro played a wombo
Choose the
combo.
right victim. Know who to seduce and who not to waste your time on. Preparing for the hunt. The Vicomte de Valmont was notorious for his subtle and serpent-like seductive traits. Leaving behind his conquests in Paris, he went for a
Bullshit,
calm
bro.
visit to the
Fucking
provinces. At his aunt's chateau, he took on a challenge worthy of his skills. The seduction of a beautiful but prude and devoted wife. Attraction is not a choice. The Vicomte discovered a new type of woman he wasn't used to seeing. She was alluring and unique. He decided to conquer her heart. However, she had already seduced him. It was her natural, confident, noble, and innocent character that drew him in. He then tested the waters, appeared where she would be, invited her to spend time with him and his aunt. And when he sensed that she was receptive of his advances, he knew the process could carry on. Now, before we move on, I can already feel a bunch of you getting uncomfortable with the terminology Green uses, and he's gotten some hate for it. Seduction is a kind of manipulation. Persuasion, sales, influencing people, you can call it whatever you want. We're essentially talking about manipulation. And manipulation can be used for both good and bad. Let's take my mother for example. 15 years ago, she told me to eat my spinach so I could get lots of muscle like my back then hero Popeye, knowing fully well that I was more likely to eat my vegetables that way. Now, does that make her an evil mastermind? No, it doesn't, right? And when Green uses the word victim here, it simply means that person,
You think he had one
regardless of
attack?
gender, is on the receiving end of seduction. They're the ones being seduced.
four
And
random
I dare you
hand
to make
hits
this a
into
man versus woman
crazy.
thing. I'll gladly destroy your biased arguments, and I'll say a few more words about that at the end. Continuing. Keys to seduction. What are the most important lessons we should take away from this chapter? Get a sense of who you're dealing with, be that through observation, direct confrontation, or gathering intel.
Needs to play a
Determine
4-4.
whether you genuinely like the person. Figure out what they are like. What are their interests? Who are they with? Are they currently in a
No, we need to
relationship?
draw
Are they
cards, huh?
looking for one? Where do they live? What do they do professionally? In, I hate to say it, hiccup terms, this is called screening. You get to know your victim on a superficial level, you find out the logistics, and that's enough for you to see whether or not they're worth your time and the continuance of the seductive process. Basically, are they worth pursuing? Test the waters for biting fish. See if you can build up attention, a sign for erotic potential between you and your victim. If they're not open to your influence, there's nothing to be gained. Your advances are better saved for another target, especially when you're in a venue full of potential victims. Look for the ones who are hungry for your attention. It's more than okay to be chosen by someone. They will allow your advances because they genuinely like it. Now this is a big one. Don't settle for less. Here's one of the greatest lies imposed on men. Ready? She's out of your league. You're not good enough for her.
I love
Listen,
that one.
this is nothing more than a limiting belief disguised as a societal standard. Don't get a partner in your league just because you've been told you have to. This bullshit makes me angry. There is no leagues. There is only superficially more attractive people. The sense of entitlement people get because they resemble magazine models is insane. Beauty fades. The person you are 20 years from now. What will your worth be once your beauty's gone? That's a legitimate question. Ask yourself, is that all I am? Pretty. I'm just a pretty fucking person. That's my strength. I was born with it.
What is
a lot
this?
of it is genetics. and well, yeah, that's me. Come on. The value of a person is not solely